Hi, welcome back to another episode of Backstage Pass with Phoenix. So excited. We give you the behind the scene details of all the entertainment business and the media influencers. And I wanted to kind of get things rolling by talking about radio, behind the scenes of radio, because a lot of people have been asking me questions about that. And I'm not the guru. So I wanted to bring the guru on to give you the behind the
Oh,
scenes. So we have Don
wow.
Jarrett here. He's
Wow.
currently, yes, on the sister station to Star 98. He's on The Wolf, which I was actually on as well. Super fun station. Country
You
music.
were
Yes.
very briefly, and then they stole you
And
from
then
me.
they stole me. I know. It was sad, but we had so much fun. And
You
I,
did.
I learned a lot from Don. He's a wise one. So so I want to share his wisdom with you today. But thanks for being here, Don, in your busy
Oh,
day.
you're most welcome. I'm flattered. I don't know how I live up to that intro, the guru.
Guru. Yeah, you
Okay.
better
Feel
deliver.
like
Now that
I
we've
feel
said
like I
that.
need to be floating kind of in midair, legs crossed here. I don't know.
You are. If I can give you a different background. You could be floating.
It's
Well, tell me, so now you're in the Wolf, but
yeah.
you have a lot of experience in radio. Can you give us a little bit of your background, like your journey?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm from Northern California, from Eureka, Arcata, Humboldt County area, right there, sea level, right by the ocean. And grew up there. And after high school, wasn't sure what I was going to do. I played football at Humboldt State University for a year. Uh, Kind of just took your standard, general ed stuff, no real direction or major. After that first year, realized I wasn't going to make it to the pros, the NFL. I
Mm.
was a little too small. Um, and still wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I didn't want to stay in that town. So I ended up, after that first year at Humboldt State, I moved about 4 hours south to Santa Rosa, California, which is a few hours away from San Francisco. And just started working like as a bag boy at Safeway. And again, I'm 19 years old. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then started going to a community college, and they had a little radio station there, like a mock-up radio station and a radio course. Santa Rosa Junior College. I took that course. I was like, hey, this is cool. Always been a fan of radio. I mean, just love bothering the DJs on my local radio station, requesting songs and dedications and waiting by the radio. And just the magic of radio was always something I really enjoyed. I never envisioned myself being on the radio, but I really loved the radio and what it was in my life. I remember even listening to Dr. Demento, where Weird Al Yankovic and those guys came from Culver City, California. Sunday nights on my radio, listening to all these crazy comedy bits. Um, so Santa Rosa, lost my financial aid and kind of went, you know what, maybe this whole college thing isn't for me. I don't know what my direction is, but this is not working out. And so I just went to work full time and kind of trying to figure out what my direction would be. And I was working at a warehouse, at a battery place, and working at grocery stores and liquor stores, and just wasn't sure what I was going to do. And, I was renting a house with like four other roommates, and um, just living the 19, 20-year-old life back in, 91 or whatever it was,
Mhm.
92. And still listening to a lot of radio. Always loved different types of music. Um, I grew up in the 80s, so MTV generation, Gen X and all of the amazing things that came out in the 90s
Mhm.
and the 80s. Um, and I actually enlisted in the Army. I was
Wow.
at the point where I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I'll just go in the Army. So I enlisted in the Army and I was ready to go. 4th of July, 1991, right before Kuwait, if we look back at history. And I was going to be a mechanic, a Bradley fighting vehicle mechanic. I
Mhm.
had my orders, delayed entry program. I was ready to go. And then my roommate came out and goes, hey, there's a broadcasting school that just opened up in Santa Rosa, man. You should check it out. And I'm like, well, why would I check that? He goes, well, you got a big mouth and you like the radio.
That's
And
the
I'm
only
like, oh,
qualification you
yeah.
need for this job. You like to
Apparently
talk.
that
I mean, I guess so. That's why we're here.
I guess that was the qualifications. And I'm like, oh, it just kind of intrigued me, and I was like, hmm. And so I checked it out, and lo and behold, you just have certain moments in your life where you're like, ding, like this
Yeah,
is something.
for sure.
I think this is going to be like, I really want to do this. But I
Right.
was already committed to Uncle Sam. And I called up my recruiter and asked him, is there any way to, and he's like, nope, you're in. We'll see you on the 4th of July. I'm like, all right. Called me a week later and said, you're out. Good luck. And I'm like, oh,
We don't need you. You're too
okay.
small. You're like,
I
gonna make
know.
the
It's like,
NFL, gonna make the Army. It's
I
radio.
am already, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So, a broadcasting school is exactly what you would think it is.
Yeah.
You pay a certain fee. There's a course that you take. There's study courses, but it was all about radio. And
Yeah.
at the
Oh, that's
time,
sweet.
I mean, at the time before digital and all of the computers and everything, we're talking hands-on stuff like reel to reel and cutting and splicing and, playing records and
Right.
CDs and, learning how to construct a show and write copy, how to speak, uh,
Uh-huh.
how to project, how to use your voice, all these just totally immersed in the actual physicality and theory of radio. And it
Wow.
was I loved it. I mean, I didn't have to worry about all the other courses like math.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, no,
it
well,
was
I like that because I'm like, we don't
yeah,
have a whole lot of schools like that anymore. I feel like a lot of people in radio now don't even go to school. Like they haven't taken those courses. I did some broadcasting classes, but none of my broadcasting focused on radio at all. And it's
yeah,
really cool. Like you said, it's like changed because it was like reel to reel. Then you were like cutting and splicing like actual reels, like DJing. But
yep,
then you've gotten so many jobs through radio. Like you've been in a lot of different markets since then, right?
yeah,
How many stations have you been
yeah.
on since
So
then?
so I started out, doing overnights like midnight to 5 a.m. while still holding a full-time day job because
Hmm.
that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
Um, after you finish the course, and they help you with internships, and they had a little 5 watt, 15-watt station that you could practice on. And I ended up, it actually, the building that the broadcasting school was in was actually in the same building as a radio station that I
Mm.
listened to,
Mhm.
right down the hall, actually, which was bizarre. And I just won like a CD player in a contest from that radio station. Next thing you know, I'm walking in there going, hey, I want to be on the air. And they actually let me be on the air from like midnight to 5 a.m. And I kind of cut my teeth stacking up records and CDs and stuff like that. And everything had to be played manually. We were real disc jockeys. We physically had to start and stop everything.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, it's a computer that runs a program and you talk in between things. You don't have to worry about it. It's already programmed in there. And it was, you really had to be in the moment. And I really think that that's actually one thing that's kind of lost now. But not having to worry about all of that stuff, you have more time to prepare what it is you're going to say and really kind of work on the content more, which I mean, there's give and take there. So yeah, I started out there, then I lost that job. A guy came in, I went on vacation. He came back and said, oh, you don't get vacation. You're a part-timer. And he goes, we already replaced you. And I'm
Mhm.
like, finding out the real cold hard truth about radio and the
Mhm.
entertainment business. And this guy also told me to my face, and I'm 20, 19, 20, and I'm on fire for radio. And I've just lost this gig and I was crushed. And he goes, you might want to find something else. I don't think you're cut out for radio. And I
But
said,
look at you. Now you've overcome that.
I mean,
Well,
I
it still
could have,
traumatizes you, but
yeah, well, no, for me, and I don't know if it's yeah, I don't know if it's how you're raised or your generation, and some people would argue both, but that was pretty much fuel for me. Whenever
Mhm.
whenever I was told no or you couldn't or I was rejected or someone would say you're not good enough, I just would work 1,000 times harder to prove them wrong,
I
quite
love that.
frankly.
And I
Yeah,
think
and
that's such
so
an important skill to have in radio business too, because you're going to face that a lot. We're going
just
to have
in
to wrap up.
general.
Yeah, we're going to have to wrap up this segment really quick. But before we do, what have you always been on country? Or you have done a few other kinds of
Yeah.
stations,
Yeah.
right?
So I started out that station I was telling you about. I started out that was called AOR, album oriented rock. When we played everything from 80s hair metal, Motley Crue to classic rock to at the time that new band Nirvana.
Dang.
So we played a little bit of everything, and then about 1991 ish. Rock and roll radio just kind of blew up, and then they went straight classic rocks, alternative, new rock. I mean, when I got on rock and roll radio, it was all together. It was kind of like watching MTV. It was really cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, I did rock, and then after I lost that job, I ended up getting a job doing overnights on a country station. And you got to remember, it was 1991, and that was the beginning, the dawn of the golden age of country music that is still revered to this day. I mean, you're talking the country class of, 1989, 1990. You're talking Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Clint Black, Randy Travis a couple years before that. We had all the big, country stars
Mhm.
that you can think of: Reba, Trisha, Martina. I mean, Winona. They all ended with an A for some reason, but it was definitely an A class. I mean, when it came to the talent that came out in the 90s, and
Yeah.
that was also culturally, it wasn't just what was on the radio. What happened in the 90s in country music translated to the clubs
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
line dancing scene and the dance scene, which was, those two things were like, you know, bread and butter. I mean, they went together. Like, you would break a song on the radio and it had a line dance that in a couple days, and people were dancing to it. Whether it was "Achy Breaky Heart" with Billy Ray Cyrus, Miley's dad,
Yeah.
who kind of blew up that scene. Brooks and Dunn, they were huge in the line dancing scene with "Boot Scootin' Boogie," which is still an anthem for that today. And I actually ended up fully immersed in the 90s, from being on the air to literally DJing clubs, on the weekends and at night, for line dancing.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't get a lot of sleep in my 20s.
Well, as you can see, Don has a lot of passion. We're gonna have to jump back into this, continue talking about all this passion that you have, when we come back, because we have to take a quick break. But, yeah, we're not only gonna hear about Don's passion and the behind the scenes of radio, but we also secretly we have some Taylor Swift stories for you. So stay tuned. We'll be back here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Hey, we're back with Don Jarrett. We are learning the behind the scenes of the radio part of the entertainment industry. And Don Jarrett was talking about his background on lots of different kinds of stations, country, rock. I mean, he went to broadcasting school. He did all the original DJing kind of things, splicing and dicing all the like records, and that's not really what we do now. You were talking about
No,
as a radio personalities now, we don't do that. It's all digital. And I wanted to kind of, we're teasing that we have some Taylor Swift stories coming up. But before that, I wanted to hear, how is
that's
radio
a good
different for you?
radio. That's a good radio reference. Teasing, the art of
Teasing.
the tease coming
Yes.
up, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's coming up. So stay tuned. But yeah, so what is different for you now, and what do you like about what are some of your favorite parts about being a radio personality?
A lot of things are different, but there's a lot of things just remain the same. I mean, the magic of radio is what got me into radio, and it still is what really just gets me up in the morning. And I get up really early in the morning, and the older I get, the harder that is. But I can honestly tell you, 35 years later, whatever it is, again, not good at math. However many years it is, decades later, I can say decades now. I'm still thrilled to get on the air every morning and turn the mic on and be live at 6 a.m.
I love
Um,
that.
being able to just express yourself. First of all, I mean, I'm a fan. I mean, I'm a fan of whatever it is I'm on the radio with, whether it's the music or a topic or whatever. I'm a fan of it first. I mean, that's what drove me to radio. I was a fan of radio. I was a fan of the music on the radio. I was a fan of the DJs on the radio.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan first, and being able to actually do this and make a reasonable living and raise a family on it I is beyond a blessing. I mean, it's a dream come true. I mean, not
Yeah.
everybody gets that opportunity to do something they truly love. You
Well,
hear that whole, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, it is absolutely true for
yeah.
my career. I can honestly tell you, I don't consider this work. It's just an extension of really kind of who I am. So,
That's how
a
I
lot
feel
of
about
things.
it too. I feel like it's so
Yeah,
it's so fun. It's just like you get to do what you love every day. And I feel like that's a lot of the entertainment industry. Like not all of it is like sunshine and roses, but a lot of it is. A lot of it is just
yeah,
is having fun and bringing joy to other people. I think that's really fun. And you have a unique situation where you actually have a morning show. So a lot of people
yeah.
might be on the radio, but having your own morning show is a different realm in itself. That's kind of what people aspire to in the radio business, I guess. So
Well,
what
I
what
mean,
is what? I was going to say,
Go
what
ahead.
does it look like? What does your day look like? What does it look like to run a morning show?
So, traditionally a morning show is usually the cornerstone or linchpin anchor of a radio station. It's where everything kind of begins your programming day, and the rest of the station usually flows through that. I didn't start out doing mornings. I kind of inherited a morning show. I'd done afternoons for a good portion of my career before, again, inevitably, weird, strange, crazy things happen and change
Mhm.
happens. One day I was called into my program director's office and he said, "Yeah, we had to let the morning show guy go. You're starting mornings tomorrow morning." And that's a big change for somebody that was not prepared for that. And
Right.
yeah, so mornings again, that's changed too. Over the years, as far as like start times and end times for that matter. I mean, a traditional morning show used to be 6 to 9, 6 to 10. Some of them would be 5 to 9 back in the day. But
Wow.
now listening habits and the way people consume radio is different. The way shows and content are constructed are different. So I'm on the air at 6, live, literally live, and taking phone calls, literally at 6 o'clock from listeners, playing requests, telling stories, talking about different topics with listeners at 6 a.m. And
Hmm.
I can honestly tell you there's no other radio stations here doing that.
Hmm.
And a lot of stuff is syndicated or sent in from a different market or pre-recorded. And that's fine, but that's not what we do here, and that's not what I prefer. I can honestly tell you that I've been live on the radio for 99.9% of my career.
So
Um,
what happens, like, I think a lot of people want to know when you get a caller that calls in and says something
mhm.
crazy or says something that you don't want to put on the air. I know the magic, but can you tell people the magic? How do you
Yeah,
fix that?
yeah. So taking calls, first of all, my number one rule, and because over my career I've been burned by it, and generally speaking, most radio stations adhere to this rule. You never put somebody on the air live, ever. Even if, some radio stations, especially talk stations now, they may do that because they've got a delay so that they have a button. So if somebody was to say something inappropriate or offensive or whatever, they would hit the button and it would rewind 10,
The
15
jump
seconds and they
button.
could cut it out. But for a traditional, radio station, music radio station that's not a talk radio format, we just don't put it on the air live. We have a way to digitally record every call, and then we actually can go back and edit the call, tighten it up, take out things we don't want, add things we want. Things, if we stumbled on something, cut it out, recut it, put it all back together. I mean, it's a process, and we used to do it with physical tape, and
Yeah.
now we do it with a
What are you talking about?
digital thing
I
like
don't
that, which is
I don't
called
see
Vox.
it. I just see the
Oh, you
background.
don't? Oh, sorry. You see all this fancy smancy stuff. Anyway, it's
I
we
know we
do it.
should take the background off so
Yeah,
you can see it. But that
yeah, we
so
do it. We do it digitally now, so it's a lot faster and more effective. So I can and I've gotten pretty good over the years at taking a call, cutting it up, and putting it back on within a few seconds. But
yeah.
never putting anyone on live. You just never know what's going to happen, and it's just not worth it. And production value wise, it can suffer because you don't know what kind of connection you have. You don't.
Right.
So
And
nowadays, it's better to do it recorded and play it back.
And it's
Yeah.
cool because I sat in Don's office when I first went to the radio station and saw how he did it. He has this little program where he's literally like splicing it. He gets the call in, and then during the commercial break, he's like editing it, splicing it, and it's ready to go by the time he has to be on again. It's pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
nifty
All the
how
all
quick
that
you do
time with
it.
a razor blade and a little grease marker cutting and tape really paid off. I got really good at that, by the way. But I
Yeah.
think I think what I've probably the thing that's developed over the years is being able to take a call and know what the beginning, the middle, and the end game is going to be before you even speak to them
Yeah.
so that you can conduct it really efficiently and not have to do a lot of editing. So those things kind of become kind of built in second nature. I mean, realistically, if any scenario,
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure any scenario you can put me in, if you handed me a microphone at this point in my career, I could speak on it.
Which I also want to talk about because I feel like people want to know about that impromptu. We got to take another quick break, but we have so much that we could talk about. I know we were like talking at the beginning of the segment. We're like, we're gonna have struggle condensing this, but we'll be back really quick here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, and we were talking about how we have so much to talk about.
We do.
I have so many questions, and I want to continue this what we were talking about before about behind the scenes of radio DJing. But one of the things that I did mention is your favorite parts of being a DJ or a radio personality. One of my favorite parts is being able to meet people like behind the scenes, getting people in the studio, talking with people just like this. Like we're actively participating in the community all the time. That's one of my favorite parts. And I did promise that we would have Taylor Swift stories. So I want to make sure we get these in because I know Don has met a lot of cool people in in his career. And Taylor Swift is hot topic. She was top in Spotify in 2024. She had the biggest album of the year with her Tortured Poets in 2024. She also ended her Eras tour. She's the number one most richest female artist in the world, so she's still a hot topic. And Don
Yeah.
actually was able to meet her
Man.
in what
Wow.
you call her first era. You met her, so tell
Yeah.
me the story of Taylor Swift.
Well, first of all, girl dad,
Hmm.
Swifty, OG Swifty right here. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
he's got if
Um,
for those radios, he's showing his bracelets. His daughter's made some cute Taylor Swift bracelets.
yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy. So when she first hit the scene, very young age, if you know the story, she hit Music Row. She knocked on doors. She was just a little tween trying to get her music heard, and nobody wanted to give her the time of day. She ended up getting a writing deal, publishing deal before she even got a record deal. And then by the time she was 16, she had a song on the radio called Tim McGraw. And that really caught a lot of ears because Tim obviously was really hot at the time as well. And they're like, what's this song called Tim McGraw? Who's this girl singing it? And then we come to find out it's, 16, 15, 16-year-old girl singing the song about Tim McGraw. And everybody wanted to know more. I don't know if it was genius marketing or whatever, but, I'm in Salt Lake City at the time. They changed the only time they changed my name on the radio. They changed my name to Danny Ryan on the radio.
Hmm.
That's an old radio thing to do, change your names for anonymity and so stalkers can't find you, whatever. But I'd never gone by any other name than Don Jarrett, but they changed my name to Danny Ryan for the 3 years I was in Salt Lake. So here I am talking to her manager at the time. His name was Rick Barker. And I said, tell me about this song. Tell me about this artist, this, Taylor Swift. And he goes, oh, she's great. She's so talented. I said, can we do an interview? He said, just reach out to her on MySpace,
This was all
uh,
back then.
which I did. And she got right back with me. And she called my show the next morning and I
Crazy.
talked to her. Yeah, yeah, right. Talked to her about the song, talked to her about her, who she is, where she, get to know some 15, 16-year-old girl singing the song, and it wasn't unusual. I mean, there's been some young artists that have come along, over the years, and you never know what's going to happen with any of them. And then she says, "I'm going to be coming into town." She, if I told her, "Hey, we're playing the song. I love it. I love Tim McGraw. I love your voice and blah blah blah." Very complimentary. I mean, every reason to compliment her. And I said, "If you're ever in town, let me know." Well, sure enough, they were coming through town and she said, "Can I stop by the station and do an interview, play a couple songs?" I said, "Sure." Who's all coming? She, "Oh, me and my mom." I said, "All right, cool." So her and her mom just show up, in the afternoon. I'm doing an afternoon show, and she's sitting there with her big hair and her sundress and her 12-string guitar, and she sings a few songs, and we do the typical interview, and then we take some pictures, and I was immediately blown away. Like there are moments again where you see a lot of, and there's a lot of talent, but I'm looking at a 16-year-old girl playing a 12-string guitar, super articulate, super bright, just cute as a button, all the personality in the world. And you're like, after the interview, I literally took this picture with her, a couple pictures her mom took, and I just said, do you realize, I mean, I'm sure you realize your daughter is talented, but I don't know if you're really ready for how talented she is. I was just, and I wasn't just saying it. I was like, I really believe your daughter's going to be a massive star. And she was super humble. They both were. they were like, "Oh shucks, thanks. Oh, you're so kind." And I'm like, I looked her mom right in the face and I said, "No, no, no. You need to be ready.
Mm.
I've seen a few people over the years. She's going to be a big star." And then they went on their way, and I kept in touch. Uh, Rick gave me her cell phone number. I would text her when a new song came out. We'd do interviews, whatever. I'd call her when she was on the road. Um, I
I
mean,
remember I
she
remember you
was
said
just
one time
available.
that
Yeah,
she'd be like, "Hey Dawn," like she'd like noticed you for a little while until
yeah.
she had too many
It was
people around her, right?
yeah, it was kind of crazy. I mean, there was a time where, like I said, I had her cell phone number where I could reach out to her and say, "Hey, where are you at? What are you doing?" I have a phone call right here, as a matter of fact. So, having and again at the time she was so new, it was no big deal. I mean, there have been other artists where, you got a phone number, you text them, "Hey, I love the new single," whatever. So, things are going pretty quickly for her at this point. And I knew she was on the road and it was her 18th birthday. And so I had her phone number, so I gave her a call. What's up? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Taylor Swift. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. What an amazing song. Big ovation, seriously. I just wrote that this morning. Amazing. You think you could make some money on it? Happy birthday, Taylor Swift, 17 years old. Oh, 17. Congratulations, girl. Thank you so much. Hey, listen to the news I just got today. Okay, what's up? After the George Strait tour, I'm going to be on the Brad Paisley tour. Come on. Yeah, life just keeps getting better. I mean, I think 17 might even be better than 16.
Just wait till you're 22, girl.
Yeah, you think? I mean, but the thing about it is when you listen back and she's 17, it's the same Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You can
That's
hear it.
amazing. And she's so
I mean, you can
cute.
hear it. It's the same excited Taylor Swift.
Hmm.
And she had the passion back then for it. She clearly still has the passion for it now. And she was just so beyond her years. Like when you would talk to her, you're like, so I mean, when she first came in, so that was 17. When I first met her, she was 16. And I remember sitting down and talking with her. She brought her whole band in and she said, "We got some time. I want to record a song. I want to play some new music for you. I want, and her band sitting over there in the corner of the studio. She's sitting there across from me. It's just her and I. And, it was around Christmas. And I'm like, and her birthday's in December and she has a whole Christmas thing. And I'm like, and at the time it was kind of like, I was like, I just kind of shot from the hip. And I think I asked her, what's it like growing up? Because I assume she's growing up in the music business, and this was her response, 16 years old.
I think I didn't grow up in the music industry. I grew up loving music and I grew up trying to do this, but I didn't grow up, getting paid to play music and being driven by that and that whole thing. I didn't have to support my family, thankfully. That I was not the source of income for my family. And my dad, was always so generous with helping me out with everything that I did. Music was just something that I loved. And it happened to be something that I have been able to make into a career. It was never starting out as this has to be my career. This is the only thing that I can do to support my family. So that way it never turned into something, that was so just desperate. I was never desperate for it, but I was in a way because I loved it that much. I got my first publishing deal, I guess, having a real job writing for Sony when I was 14. And that's when I started actually, going downtown and writing every single day. But I think you can get weird if you let it make you weird. And I think if you surround yourself with the right people that are grounded and are real and aren't going to lie to you, that's, I think, one of the number one things. I've surrounded myself with people who are very honest and aren't going to just try to tell me something that I want to hear because they're afraid not to. Because I've tried not to be that person.
Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. That was like,
16-year-old
wow.
Taylor Swift talking like that. If that wasn't foreshadowing of things to come, to have that mentality and that kind of mindset at her age, it is no wonder she is where she is right now. To be
Mhm.
thinking and acting like that at 16 years old, it was destined to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
it, yeah,
And
yeah,
I loved what both you and she are sharing, that it's a passion. It's not something that you feel like you had to do, and that's what has made the difference in just being successful in both of your careers. And so I want to continue just wrapping this up. We have a few minutes left, but talking about you and your success. So we'll be back here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. If you missed the last segment, go back and listen to it because we have some behind the scenes footage with Taylor Swift as well as Don
mm,
Jarrett. So go listen to that. That's like some original audio there from way back when she was 16, 17 years old. Go listen to that again. And you can find this if you are watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on the radio, you can jump onto the podcast anywhere you get your podcast, Backstage Pass, and re-listen to this, share this with your friends. But we have Don Jarrett on for just a couple more minutes. And, we were talking about your career and your success.
yeah.
And also, I know that some listeners were wondering how you know what to say. You were talking about this a little bit before about if you get handed a mic now in your career, you feel like you can just go, you can say anything, you can entertain. How did you get to that point? How do you know what to say when the mic is in front of you now?
A lot of practice. Oddly enough, literally, like an actor would practice their lines. Early in my career, I would practice my delivery with the microphone off before I turned it on. I remember many times being surprised by someone coming into the studio and I'm just talking into the mic and I'm not on the air. Um, I was a real big believer in that. I mean, scripting it out, and then recording it or saying it out loud and then saying it again. Um, Really kind of laid the foundation for that ability. I think I've always had the gift of gab and storytelling and using my voice in various ways. Um, so yeah, I mean, at this point, it's kind of cool to have 30 plus years of experience where I've come to that point where I'm comfortable being able to articulate and virtually talk about anything without really preparing. As long as I don't get knocked in the head too hard, it's all up here and it comes out of here pretty easily. So
Hmm.
I
Practice.
feel blessed. I feel blessed for being able to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
early on, yeah, I really had to work at the craft of
Hmm.
constructing a break, as they call it. You know what I was going to say? The beginning, the middle, and the end. So vital, so difficult
Right.
without rambling off into the stratosphere. So yeah, I mean that a lot of practice. But you're right. I mean, I could give you 20 minutes on bubble gum if
Yeah.
you wanted me to.
Which is amazing because you always told me too, like the art of radio is just saying the same thing differently every time. And it is hard when you first jump into the studio and you're like, oh, I'm on right now, and you're trying not to stutter, or you're trying to formulate your thoughts and you have it up there, but it's different having the thought up there versus being able to say it. And I totally agree
Yeah,
with you. Practicing every day, whatever it is, whatever your profession, whatever your career is, if you practice it every day, even if it's speaking, if you do that
yeah.
every day, it becomes
And
easier.
you're
I
really
feel.
good at you're really good at it too. I mean, with your
Thank you.
acting, chops and the things that you do, remembering lines and everything. I mean, you're really good at it as well. I'm sure that's helped with your
Yeah,
podcasting as well as your radio career. And I
for
would
sure.
I would say this to anybody interested in podcasting or TV or radio or whatever it is where you're speaking. Uh, you know, I would do anything you can with your voice, whether it's debate or speech or whether you're in the performing arts of any sort, if you sing, whatever. It's becoming a lost art because of our digital communication now that people don't even really know how to speak to each other with their voices anymore, and how to emote with your voice and how to project with your voice and I'm often a scary person in a room where a lot of people don't know how to communicate verbally anymore because I can. And
Hmm.
it's a little intimidating for some people sometimes to be able to talk to somebody that can speak and
Yeah,
authoritatively or whatever the case may be.
yeah.
So it has been a little blessing and a little bit of a curse, but I will say that nowadays, um, it's becoming rarer that people have that ability. You know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of digital, a lot of monotone, and
right.
people don't understand there's a lot of power in your voice to
So
convey your
true.
thoughts and your feelings, and to learn how to use it is it's pretty cool. It's
And
pretty
that's
cool.
what this show is all about. I'm so glad that you left us with that because we are trying to learn about the backstage, the behind the scenes of the entertainment and the media industry, but how to use that because the media is a tool and it's such a powerful tool. Your voice is such a powerful tool. Your voice is in itself part of the media. So if you learn how to use your voice, you have already like elevated your power and your influence. And I think that's so important for people to hear and people to know. In the last minute that we have with you, what other advice do you have for people that are interested in radio, specifically, or in the media in general?
Yeah, yeah. I think the media has a big responsibility, and this changed throughout my career. I mean, at the beginning, it was, concerts and music, and the lifestyle of being on the radio DJ, and look what I get to do, and tickets and backstage, literally backstage passes and things like that. That changed after 2001. September 11th, 2001 changed my entire perspective. It changed everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but it really changed a lot of us in the media and the entertainment business about what's really important and what power and what we can do to impact our communities. And I would say if you're going to get into any sort of entertainment or media, don't forget to give back in some way to the communities in which you serve or in which you're heard. It is so important to connect with your community, so important to use the power or perceived power that you may have, whether you're on a radio station or TV or you're a podcaster or influencer or whatever, to positively impact people around you. The simplest thing can go so far, and find passion projects and causes that you care about, and don't be afraid to champion them with your whatever status you have in the business.
I love that. Thank you so much. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn and harness the power of our own influence. Thank you so much for your time, John. You can catch Don Jarrett on The Wolf in the mornings. So catch him there. And you can also listen to more of these episodes on Star 98 and on the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to share them. It's also on YouTube, so go watch it on YouTube. Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Phoenix.
Yeah, thank you.